gosh, I'm going to start crying, I think. Wow, I didn't mean to get that emotional that early on. Woohoo!
We are lit today.
Oh, welcome!
Hey.
So, welcome. You are live with us at Do Epic Shit, the podcast. Real talk, real estate, real life.
This is real life for sure.
My name is Colleen Basinski. I'm a real estate agent, real estate broker, entrepreneur, mom, grandma, and businesswoman. And this is my associate.
I'm Neill, and I'm all of that except for grandma. No grandma yet.
Awesome.
Oh.
Well, you're pretty awesome. And you're an investor too.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. So welcome to our second episode. So in true transparency, I almost said tampon. What the heck? In true transparency, I have to start out by saying this is episode 2, but this is like take 3 episode 2.
It is take 3.
Because we decided that we were going to undertake this on our own. We're like, yeah, we need to record our next episode. We need to be on time and have our weeks drop, weekly on the right day and time, and all that perfectionist shit that I talked about that I do all the time. Mm-hmm. And so Kristen wasn't available, or we didn't ask her. We just impromptu.
I don't know
decided.
what happened. Why we didn't have you here that day?
It was an off week.
Busy.
So we recorded a really good episode, I think. Only
to find out it didn't record.
Yeah, it did. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I thought we did. I thought I pressed the right buttons. I didn't have any of the right buttons pressed. I didn't have anything plugged in where it needed to be.
It's a work in progress.
Yeah. So we are 2 very middle-aged women figuring out how to do a podcast on our own. So we appreciate that you're taking the time to tune in and be with us. So big shout out to Kristen DiFiore, who's handling all of our video and technical stuff on the back end with us here, like she's our right hand. And then also to Nolan, who is our editor and sound guy and helped us with all of our equipment.
He did a good job.
I mean, he was awesome.
He really did a good job. You both did.
Yeah.
I mean.
So I like to give credit where credit's due. So
sure.
I think that's important.
Yeah.
So we are at week 2, episode 2, and let me just put my glasses on so I can see what I'm talking about.
Wait, before we get started, how did you think week 1 went?
I thought it was good.
I thought it was great.
I mean, we've had a lot of good positive feedback.
Absolutely.
So I'm really happy with it.
Me too. I'm excited.
We told some good stories.
We did.
Yeah. We've got a lot more to
Yep.
share. A lot to share.
Yeah.
Drop some good nuggets. What was your favorite nugget we dropped the last time?
I think about just doing it. Like, just go for it. Do it.
Yeah, I hope we've encouraged some of you to just go out and take the leap and do the thing that you intend to do. I think I said that the last time. Do the thing. Take advantage of the opportunity. Go for it.
Just do
You
it.
never regret the opportunities you took if you learned something or if you achieved something. And that's the best thing. It's like there's only 2 ways to go. You're either going to grow, you're going to win, or you're going to learn. And there's nothing wrong with any of those things.
Yeah, absolutely. All 3.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that's a perfect segue into what we're going to talk about this week, which is how to start a business while raising kids.
This is a good one.
So I've been thinking about this a lot, actually. And I thought, here's me. I'm super regimented and all about we got to stay on track and we got to follow the agenda. And Kim's like, yeah, whatever. We'll just talk about whatever. And I realized that the gold comes from the real authenticity of what we're doing and how the whatever. So I'm going to try to not follow my agenda too much today, but I still want to give you guys actionable items. We're going to share the good, the bad, and the ugly. So I won't say that, obviously we both have built successful businesses, several successful businesses over the years while raising kids. And I won't say that we did everything right. We did a lot of stuff wrong. So hopefully you can learn from the things that we did wrong and laugh at them as well. And then also learn from the things we did right. So I'm going to share some things we did right, but also hey, what did you do that you're like, oh gosh, I don't do that again. I can think of some things in hindsight. So let's just start with the first question I have. How did starting a business change your role as a parent, Kim?
Well, for starters, I went from a stay-at-home mom to jumping in feet first, or head first. or whatever you want to call it. And
Dove into the deep end.
I did. I really did. And I think as I thought about this a lot too. When you're a stay-at-home mom, it is such an important role, or stay-at-home parent, period. Such a important role. And sometimes you feel guilty pulling away from that. So, while I was a stay-at-home mom, I was like, oh, I really want to be in the workforce. All my friends were in the workforce, plus had families. I was blessed enough at that point to be able to stay home. And I say blessed because not a lot of people could do that back then. And they can't do it now.
Well, yeah, now, I mean, there's no way. There's very few families that can make it on their own
Absolutely.
right now. Very few.
So I was blessed at the time. But while I was in it, I was like, what do I want to do? I'm antsy. I want to go back to work, but is it worth? I think you struggle. We all struggle. If I go back to work, how much is daycare going to be? Will I be present and around to attend, Valentine's Day parties and birthday parties? And your kids are only little ones.
Yeah, it goes by fast.
It does.
Really fast.
So for me, I was, what do I do? What do I do? Real estate was a great segue for me to get into because my husband was a carpenter and we were starting to invest and starting to flip and starting to do that. So it was just normal or natural for us for me to do that and help him.
Yeah. I think I come from the opposite end of that is I didn't have a choice. Like I had to work. So, I mean, I shared a little bit about this last week that I was going through a real tough divorce. I had been in an abusive relationship. My ex-husband, who's now deceased, had addiction issues and there was abuse. And it was a situation where I had to get out of the relationship, not just for my own benefit or my own safety, but also I saw this is not the example I want for my kids.
Yeah.
And had to really quickly do that. And gosh, I'm going to start crying, I think. Wow, I didn't mean to get that emotional that early on. I think that real estate for me probably saved my life and changed the trajectory for my kids forever.
Agreed.
Now, did I always make the right choices as I was meandering through that? No, absolutely not. I think there were plenty of times where I sacrificed time with my kids or supervision with my kids that I probably shouldn't have, that I needed to be there with them.
I think business women in general do. That's difficult.
But I also think that sometimes you just have to. Like you have to make, I think that's the number one lesson probably, is you have to make tough choices and you have to be willing to make sacrifices if you're going to start a business and have kids. And, I look at the influencers today on like TikTok and Instagram and everything. I thought, what a great opportunity for these people to be able to be present with their kids and still start a business. And yet not all of us can do a TikTok business or an influencer, but like there's only so much of that to go around, I think. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. But real estate did give me an opportunity, and maybe I could have scaled it back a little bit as I was building and growing all the businesses to the point where I could have been a little bit more present, but I still feel like I got to do a lot of really cool things with my kids over the years, and we got to have a lot of experiences and opportunities that maybe we wouldn't have if I hadn't got into real estate and built this business and built the businesses. Now, when I was building other people's companies, I think that's where it went sideways maybe in terms of the amount of time that I spent helping other people grow their business instead of investing in mine. And in hindsight, like we say, hindsight's 20/20, right? Yeah. So if I look back, like when I was first building my real estate career business, my sales business, and my own entrepreneurial business, I think I did a pretty good job. And we'll talk about like what resources we had and what we did of balancing both of those. I think for me where it went a little bit sideways is the shiny flashy objects of growing or climbing this corporate ladder within this organization I was a part of that just sucked the life out of me.
It did suck the life.
I remember being in that office till 2-3 in the morning, getting our numbers in on time so that we could, look good in the corporate eyes. Yeah. And now that I'm back in the sales side of things and I'm not affiliated with I'm loving it.
We do have fun.
So yeah, so I think, and you won't go back and change anything because it made you who you are and where you are today. I mean, are there some things that I wish maybe went a little bit differently overall. But like even, obviously I lost my daughter. She's not here today. Yeah. And that's a really, really hard thing, right? But I also know that her and I had some amazing trips together and experiences together, and we went places and we did things together, and I know that those things would not have happened if I hadn't been my own boss and hadn't been in this business, been in real estate and had become an entrepreneur. So sorry to get real heavy on you guys fast, but I just think that when you make that decision, there are some sacrifices, but also it can create and open doors to amazing opportunities. Like, I have my grandson now. I'm raising my grandson. I would not have been able to have the freedom of time to be able to take on a little kid all over again, a little boy, if I hadn't been my own business owner and been my own business person. And so it does open up doors.
Yeah, for sure.
Opens up doors. So what are a couple resources, I would say, that you leaned on early on as you were jumping into this real estate business and being a mom? And it's when you have kids, you're like figuring it all out.
I think family. I had at that time I had my sister was helping me a little bit. I had a neighbor. Actually, it was my neighbor's daughter. Mm-hmm. So she was 15 years old, and she would come over and watch the kids just for a couple hours. And I think you have to be, I had to be anyway, very purposeful with my time. So if I knew I had showings or I had to get something done, I knew I had that time slot between 4 and 7.
Yeah.
Like you have to be very purposeful. For me, it was. So I had the neighbor girl, I had my sister, because the kids were still little.
Yeah.
And then, of course, my husband would come home and do what he could do, but he worked construction all day.
He was probably tired, yeah.
Yeah, so.
I mean, working construction out in the heat for 8-10 hours, you're wiped.
Yeah, absolutely. So, to count on him a lot wasn't, even though he was home, he might be sleeping, I still had the neighbor girl with the kids, so those were some of the resources that I was able to tap into, and you get real creative. And I was thinking about this when we talked about it before. I actually, at that time, was helping a client that happened to be friends with me, and after I got done, after they bought their house and moved in, she was like, Kim, you always have Donovan. She's like, you could drop him off. I'll watch him. So that too became a resource for me.
Well, Donovan was a regular at our office. I mean, I loved when he came in.
And you do that, and that brings me to another good point. I would sometimes, if I didn't have anybody, I would throw him in the car with a Happy Meal and I think that I don't even know what his handheld. I mean, we would burn through so many.
Well, I know when he would come in, he would run right to Bart's office. Bart would
jack him up on candy,
sugar, and pop and candy, donuts. Play with him, run him around the halls. Gave him nicknames.
Yeah, just able to do work. Remember we had the vending machines?
Oh yeah.
And they would just. Here, what do you want, Donovan? Just so I could get a half hour, 40 minutes of work done.
Yep. So. Yeah, I mean, think about it. That was back before we could stick a tablet in front of a kid or something. And not that you always want to do that now, but like we do have the convenience of that. Like if I have to take Julian with me somewhere, or if I have an appointment, or back then it was, PJ. So I remember that my youngest, PJ, was diagnosed on the autism spectrum. And so there weren't a lot of options. So, I didn't have family. My mom wasn't local. My mom was out of state. I had an aunt that would help me. Bart's mom, you remember, I got into this and Bart and I are just dating. So this lady's the mom of my boyfriend, right? But I mean, God bless her soul. What a nice, sweet lady. I mean, tough as nails and mean as hell, but also a heart of gold, right? Like she had a mouth like a truck driver. Bart always teases, that's where he learned to swear. But she would, she didn't drive. She lived in the city. We'd go to the city and pick her up, and she'd come over and stay for a couple of days. And then she would help with the kids. But
she whipped them into shape.
She was a drill sergeant with those kids. They absolutely adored her. And then obviously she became my mother-in-law when we got married. But that was one of my resources. I had another realtor that I worked with who, knew I was struggling trying to figure out when was I going to schedule appointments, what I was doing. And she offered her daughter. She's like, oh, my daughter can babysit. And so, I think being creative and taking stock of your resources is really important to figure out what alternatives there are. I remember taking PJ on showings with me as well. And he would walk in and he'd be like, oh, your couch can go right here. And you could put your table over there. And the clients liked that.
I was just going to stop and say, so I feel like when you do that and incorporate your kids and your family, you become relatable.
Yep.
You become a real person. And this is just a quick story here. I was on the phone with an older gentleman 2 days ago who'd called me.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, oh my God, I can't talk right now. I just had a root canal.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, oh, well, Kim, I didn't know we were on that kind of level, but okay, call me when you feel better. And so I said, great. But I didn't do that for sympathy or like, oh, I did it like, hey, I can't talk right now. I want to answer your call and you're important to me, but I just had a root canal. Can I call you back?
Well, and I think I appreciate that. Like, it shows the work ethic and what someone's trying to do to make it. I appreciate being able to support small businesses. Like, if I see a business and I go into like a little store in the strip center and it's a little boutique or a shop or whatever, and they got their kids behind the counter sitting there nicely playing with their toys or the Legos or whatever. Like, I respect that because the hustle is real. The hustle is real. Like, it takes work to get a small business off the ground. I think that's one of the myths that's out there. It's like, oh, I'm going to get into real estate. It's going to be so easy. Or I'm going to start this business. It's going to be so easy. Yep. Like, you got to put a lot of hours in on the front end to get things going off the ground. So how to start a business when you have kids, be ready to haul them around with you. Yep. Like, they're going to go with you. But they're going to learn lessons. They're going to learn from example the importance of hard work. They're going to see it. Because I think kids don't do what you say. They do what you do, and you are role modeling for them every minute of every day in your life in what you do.
Great.
And my kids all work hard. I appreciate them. I love them, and they're watching us. They watched us, and now they're grown and doing it all over again. I kind of feel lucky in some regards that I get to do it all over again with. I mean, I'm tired. Don't get me wrong. Like, Grandma's raising a little guy. Well, he 10 years old today. Woohoo!
That's why we have kids when we're young, because we can't deal.
But I do appreciate the opportunity to have been able to have learned from the first time around and say, oh, I'm not going to do that again. And I will say one of the things that I learned is to give myself grace. And I would say for you guys too, give yourself grace. Don't sweat all the small stuff. Like, don't pressure. Like, there's so many things you can beat yourself up at and worry about and freak out about, and just take a step back and take a breath and give yourself some grace. I think you're not going to be able to be at all things all the time.
And they'll be your clients, the people you work with, they understand. Mm-hmm. They get, I think it's hard to, like, I really want to do there and I want to be 24/7 and I want to be.
But you say that, Kim, and I'm gonna call you out right now for a minute because you are one of the hardest working realtors I know. Like, people don't see what I see behind the scenes because you are hustling on the weekend. We've been at companies before where they're like, oh, you could build a business and you could work 9 to 5. And that's bullshit.
Total bullshit.
I call bullshit.
I call bullshit. I called it when I would listen to them. And I would say, who in the fuck?
Right?
Because I feel like in our industry, we work when the norm is off. Mm-hmm. If they're working 9 to 5 Monday through Friday, I'm working 5 to 9.
I see you every weekend, and not every weekend. Like, you take time off. Like, you go to the spa and you get it. I'm like, where are you at? You're like, I'm getting a massage. Like, you take care of yourself too. But I know that there's some Saturdays where I talk to you where you're out with 5 different buyers. You start at 9 o'clock in the morning. You're strolling in at 7 o'clock at night, sending me pictures of you now in your pajamas under the covers with the TV. Like, I'm pooped. But I think at different stages in your business, you're going to have to put in the hustle. Like, we're pushing really hard for some big goals this year because we want to get some momentum and kind of be able to then step back. But like, even when you're first starting your business, it's those hours and that effort that you put in the beginning that makes a difference. Now, I can remember falling asleep with the computer on my lap. Now, if we go back to when I first started, we didn't even have laptops then, I don't think. I mean, maybe they were invented, I just didn't have one. But MLS was on like the hard copy computers in the office, and you know, there was only like 3 discs for the office. I mean, I started right after they got rid of the books.
I was just coming in with the books going to hard drive.
Yeah, so we had them, those silly little discs. And so I remember going back to the office at night after I put the kids to bed and saying, hey, Bart, can you watch the kids? I got to go. He's like, you're going to the office at 10 o'clock at night? I'm like, well, yeah, I need to look this up. I need to do this. And so don't get me wrong. You'll have to put in the hours. But the benefits and the freedom and the things that you get out of it are so, so worth it.
You bet. I'm just laughing because there's some, I mean, it is not for the faint-hearted.
No.
You have to have, or learn to put on that coat or thick shell.
Well, yeah, you definitely have to grow some thick skin. I think tenacity is important,
You
resilience, but also keeping in mind to give yourself grace and forgiveness. So all those things. What about mom guilt? Talk about that. Yeah.
You know, you cannot not have it, at least a little bit. There are some, I mean, I've missed probably, I would even say that, because now that I'm you know, head first again into, you know, I kind of COVID came, I kind of dropped back a little bit, and now I'm full throttle again. And I would say in the past year, 2 years, I've even missed family parties. And you do feel bad. You do have that mom guilt. You know, there's a lot of times like this is just not even a question for me in my house. I have to have dinner. Even though my sons are grown and my one's a teenager.
You're like the crock pot queen, aren't you?
I am. That's what I did today. I was telling Kristen, I pulled out my can opener. I was making homemade spaghetti sauce, getting it all ready, and dropped it. And I could have just shut it off, put it in the fridge, and said, I'll do it tomorrow. But I'm like, nope, the kids come home from work, whatever, everybody's hungry. Like and that comes from a long period of time where I didn't have dinner and felt guilty and felt bad. You know, these guys, I mean, I have all boys, I have 3 boys. They're hungry. They want
boys can eat.
They can eat.
Kristen, you know your
boys.
Yeah.
For me, it's a no-brainer. I have to have dinner. So I literally dropped it, broke can opener, and was at Target at 8:45 this morning to buy a can opener to come home to make sure dinner was done. Am I always there? No.
Well, I think though that you bring up a point of, you know, knowing what your non-negotiables are, right? So for me, so dinner is not, I don't know. For me, it's not as big of a deal.
But you don't have all the boys at home.
They're not home now. But even when they were, every single one of my kids are phenomenal cooks. Phenomenal. And I think it's because they learn.
Yeah.
Now, it's not that I'm a good cook. Like, I can cook really well.
That you are.
I can cook and bake, which some people have one or the other. I can do both.
I can't bake.
I can cook and bake. I'm a phenomenal cook. Bart will attest to that. He says it's how he put on so much weight, but, you know, that's a topic for another day.
Maybe his age.
But all of my kids know how to cook really, really well. Like, at school, my Kyle, when he was at law school, he had 2 girls that were roommates that they, you know, it was like Three's Company, the 3 of them. They didn't cook. He cooked. He cooked for all of them.
Oh,
like he makes homemade souffle and cheesecakes, and for my birthday he made me homemade eggs Benedict. Like, he knows how to make hollandaise sauce. Like, he's good. So, but I think, so for me it was a little bit different. But my non-negotiable, particularly right now, is soccer for Julia.
Yes.
Like, that's a non-negotiable. Every Monday and Wednesday night we have soccer practice, and Wednesday night is a long-ass night because I work all day. I'm home for him from after school. We have to have a snack, get him dressed, get him ready. It's 30 minutes to get to the soccer because it's indoor right now because it's winter in Chicago. So it's 30 minutes to get to the soccer field. He has goalkeeper, not goalie practice, I learned, because goalie is hockey, goalkeeper is soccer. I'm just learning this stuff. Even though Alyssa played soccer, I didn't know it, and she was a goalkeeper too. So, but anyway, so his goalkeeper practice for an hour, then he has an hour break, but we can't drive home and go back because it's 30 minutes there and 30 minutes back. There's no point. So then we sit there for an hour. Then he goes into regular team practice, and then another half hour to get home. So we're there It's 4
Long
hours.
night.
It's a big, long night. So for me, no one else is going to, you can ask someone to run your kid here or run your kid there, but no one else is going to do that. Like, that's a non-negotiable for me.
And
So I
you want to do that.
I do. And I asked Bart to do it once, but I know Bart doesn't have the patience that I do either. So, and he's not going to sit there and flip open a computer, and I'm working and sending emails to clients. I'm fortunate that the facility has like a lounge where there's Wi-Fi. If they didn't, I'd be using the Wi-Fi in my car or whatever. But those are my non-negotiables. Yeah. And so I think for you, dinner is a non-negotiable. So I think as a parent, mom, if we're speaking to the women, but parent, if we're speaking to, decide what your non-negotiables are and then build around that, and know that you're going to have to make some sacrifices, give and take. Like, everything can't be a non-negotiable. Pick and choose what they are.
Now that you're saying that, I wish I would have done that. I can do that now because I'm 10, 15 years into the business. If somebody would have told me that early on, maybe things wouldn't have been so chaotic in my life, because they became very chaotic. I mean, even down to my relationship with my husband.
Yeah.
So that's a really good topic that we're talking about, a really good, thing to touch on is non-negotiables.
Yeah. So I just think that choosing what they are is important, and then giving yourself grace around all the other things. Like, we miss a lot of school events, and no offense to the school, but some of those after school, like we did the trunk or treat this past year. It was, I'm like, we went through all that hassle for this. It was a complete chaos nightmare. And he didn't even have that much fun. He liked the one at the church way better.
We used to go to the church one every year.
So, and I'm not trying to knock the school or anything. I know they do their best in the resources and the limits that they had. But I'm saying, like, so just because, like, all the other kids are going to it. Well, we went to it last year and it's done. Like, a couple of the after school, like, evening things, there's just too many kids running around, and there's not enough games for, like, the field night or whatever.
Yeah.
I'd rather take him to something else that he's going to enjoy more. So, like, give and take, like, learning what ones are good and what are not. I think and dinner is a great one. Like, if it's family dinner, then it's family dinner. But also knowing, like, I won't miss soccer, so Saturday morning soccer games, I can't do open house on Saturday. I got to give up Sunday. If you're not doing open house, and I know there was plenty of people who say, oh, I don't do open houses, they don't work.
I don't.
Bullshit.
Absolutely.
Again, I'm calling bullshit on a lot of things today.
Yeah, you are calling bullshit.
Because, I mean, Katie and I did an open house this week, and we had 75 people through.
Me and Kristen did one Saturday.
Would you have, like, 40, 50?
Yeah, 45 people.
Yep.
And at least 3 listing opportunities.
And didn't you get multiple offers on the property too?
And
that
we
day?
did.
Yeah. And Katie, she got 4 offers on. So it works if it's done the right way. And so it's an integral part of our business for our clients. And if you're not willing to provide the integral part of what it takes to service that client, then maybe you're not in the right business.
And I even did my own email blast.
I'm proud of you, girl.
You know, it's funny, you pulled it up on the board. It goes, Kim, you're number 2. You had set this.
Oh, yeah, we have the leaderboard of all the activities we do.
And I thought, oh, yeah, because I sent out my own email blast.
Well, I mean, but that's what it takes, like doing the things it takes. So when you're starting your own business, whatever kind of business it is, know that there are certain non-negotiables on the business side, not just the personal side. Like, we're talking about dinner and soccer, which are personal non-negotiables, but there are some non-negotiables on the business side. And like, my husband doesn't like to give up Sundays. I watch football on Sundays. I'm like, well, guess what? I'm not watching football on Sundays because we have a commitment to our clients, and this is what it takes to get things done. And so what are your non-negotiables on the business side, I think, is just important. And maybe writing all those down and laying it out in a plan in front of you so that you can see it when you're starting into this business. Like, here are the non-negotiables here are the non-negotiables there, and then everything else, I'm going to plan it, but I'm also going to give myself some grace around all of it.
I agree.
That was a good conversation.
It was.
And I'm totally not following my notes and going off the cuff, so I'm like a little nervous. Like, you guys, okay, so being transparent, right? So Kim's the like kind of like just
fly by the seat of my pants.
And I'm so like structured and
I think that's why we do well together.
Yeah, we feed off of each other pretty well. But I'm trying to loosen up a little bit. So
you're doing well today.
Thank you.
You are.
Thank you. So we talked about mom guilt. We talked about taking stock of resources. A couple other resources I wanted to mention real quick that I had thought of is think of like some unconventional or non-traditional resources besides just either bringing kids with you or having someone watch the kids. I think there's some time hacks too. So For me, I wanted to share this one. Like, I'm sure everybody knows they use Instacart or, grocery order, but that has been a godsend for me in terms of time saver. And I know we talk about inflation and prices of groceries being high, and you don't want to, use Instacart, it inflates them up. But pro tip, Duolasco has their own app where you can order on there and they'll deliver, or you can drive up and pick it up and you get all the sale prices.
You do. I just did it.
It's great.
Last week.
Saves me hours every week. Hours.
I have another lady who was 2 weeks ago. She's in the corporate world, and she said she hasn't been in a grocery store in 4 years. She just does it, orders it. She said, my time is spent better doing other, not that grocery shopping isn't important. I don't want to, minimize that, but she said it's easier for her to go on the app, order it. She pulls right into the parking space.
I buy less crap and less
that is
impulse
true
stuff too when I do it on the app. Because I can go in the refrigerator, open up, I already have 4 containers of sour cream. I don't need a 5th one just because I'm in the store.
That's true. That is true.
So for me, it's,
And not buying, everybody's watching their weight. Everybody's, I mean, you're in the grocery store. I'm like, oh, them are some new mint Oreo cookies. I'll try them.
You laugh about the mint. Well, we always have mint Oreos. I put them in Julian's lunch every day. Use them for snack. Those are good. I haven't had them.
But you are less likely to buy.
Less impulse buying,
Yeah, less impulse buying.
So you get a double benefit from it.
Absolutely.
But I think looking for ways to leverage yourself in that, because in the beginning, when you're first starting this business, people say, I'm going to get into real estate because I'm going to have freedom of time. No, you're going to have to put twice as much time to get it going. We talked about that last week when we talked about how long till our first sale.
Yeah, I work a lot. You work a lot. We work a lot. Most real estate agents, look at my buddy who I absolutely love, who's my guy from the Loop.
Yep.
He's a maniac.
Now, he wears his lack of days off like a badge of honor, and I respect him for that. That will never be me. I'm going to be a balanced person, and so I'll sell 50 homes this year instead of 300 like him, which is fine. But that's important because no one can tell me what my goals are going to be for me either.
Yeah. And I think, and I might get some slack for this, it's a little different between a man and a woman when you have a family.
I would agree.
I used to argue with someone in particular at a different company that would say, no, it doesn't, no, it doesn't, no, it doesn't. Yes, it does, because you're here from 7 in the morning until 3:30 in the afternoon. But who got the kids up? Who got their lunch packed? Who got their clothes ready?
And not that there aren't dads that do that.
Absolutely.
But at large, normally,
yes,
the wife just kind of naturally gravitates to
that
a
is
lot
their
of
natural
that.
instinct.
Yeah. It's nurtured inside of us.
Absolutely. So for me,
I used to argue about that too when I would hire people, when I had my different offices and I had my different companies, and they would say, well, the person that you hire needs to be here at this time and do this at this time.
Ouch.
And we had to have a stand-up meeting at 8 a.m. And I said, well, they don't get their kids on the bus until 8:45, so we're going to have our stand-up meeting at 9:15.
Perfect.
Like, you can't do it at 9:15. I'm like, why not? If we're truly supporting family first and then business as a company and as a business owner and a woman business owner, I'm going to role model that in the people that I have working for me and how I set up expectations for them. But also, you do that with your clients, right? You're like, okay, well, I can start showings at this time. And not that you wouldn't make a one-off exception. Like, there's plenty of times where we've gone to like a class in the city and where we had to get in and I can ask someone to do it one day. But the day-to-day, plus I want to be there. I want to give him up and give him a kiss on the head before I send him out the door to get on the bus, and make sure that he has his water bottle and his mint Oreos and his snack and all those things.
And his gym shoes and his, yeah, absolutely. I do too.
Yeah. So I think I would agree with you. So I think those things are important.
But I think when doing that with your clients and stuff, or your business, any business, it's okay to start at 9:15. It's okay to start at 10 o'clock. It's okay. Clients and people, they don't need to know exactly what's going on in your schedule.
Well, also, most people aren't showing property at 8 o'clock in the morning. Most sellers don't want people walking through their home at 8 o'clock in the morning.
How about 9 o'clock on a Saturday morning, okay?
I mean, I have an appointment this Sunday at 9.
Uh,
Because I had to squeeze it in before the open house at noon. I mean, but that's what
I
you
do
do.
it
So I'm
every
gonna have a
weekend.
full day Sunday. Like I'll have showings. And
Yeah.
last Sunday too, I had, because Saturday was soccer. We had soccer game
Yeah.
Saturday. So that was my non-negotiable. So Sunday I had showings at 9. Open house is at noon. And when open house starts at noon, that doesn't mean I get there at noon. There's an hour and a half of prep leading up to
Right.
that because we put 45 signs out. We're doing a lot, like knowing what your non-negotiables are. So that window of opportunity there, or a window of time, is set. So I think,
And mostly with our open house, you're there till, we end at 3, we're there till 3:30,
yeah,
4
pull
o'clock.
everything down,
Yeah.
45 signs, and pull them out of the snow and the
Yeah.
ice takes a little time.
I had a drill. I bought a drill.
The things we do to get creative. But again, that's like being committed to doing what it takes in your business. So you brought up you made me think of something. So we're talking about like, yeah, you don't have to start till 9 or 10. But I think on the flip side, it's also important that when you're starting this business, that you understand that it takes time to start a business, more time than to maintain a business. Like the startup, every time I've started like when we open a new office, because they own multiple offices, or when I started my real estate, like the time you put in is twice as much in the beginning until you get it up off the ground. It's kind of like, when an airplane's taken off, it's got to like the thrusters, and you've got to give that thrust to get it off the ground. The business is the same way. And I think so many times I see new agents that walk in, and literally I've coached and trained thousands of agents, right? And leaders and whatever. They walk in and they're like, oh, and then I see them say they want one thing, and then the time that they're actually putting in, and I don't care if that time starts at 9 o'clock in the morning, 7 o'clock in the morning, or if it starts at 10 o'clock in the morning, but you're working until 8 o'clock at night. Like the hours to me don't matter, like when they are. It's if you're putting in the hours. Because I see so many people say, I want to make 6 figures, I want to make $100,000 in real estate. $100,000 is not that much in real estate, to be honest with you guys. Like you can do that. I don't want to say should, because I don't want to be preachy.
You could absolutely do that.
You could do that easily, and then some, but not if you're working 5 or 6 hours a week. Show me any job in the world. I mean, I'm sure there are some, but the percentage is very, very small of where you can make 6 figures and only work 5 or 6 hours a week. So you're going to have to put the hours in. It's when you put the hours in. It's the creativity behind it, I think, that it gives you the freedom. You have freedom of time, not freedom of work. You don't get to not do the work.
Yeah. I would say, because I'm just thinking, like, there's so many misconceptions about real estate, like, oh, you get to make your own schedule, just like you said. I only have to work 4 or 5 hours. I don't have to, do the things that are hard. I mean, it is forever I didn't tell anybody the first couple of years I was in real estate what I was doing, because then people are watching and they don't see the struggle behind there, that you're on the phones, you're doing things that you normally, don't have to do at a 9-to-5 job. I remember, you got the phone call. I was in an apartment complex handing out flyers, and the apartment manager got mad and called my office. So, well, what the hell is she doing trying to take, she's trying to take our business for her own business.
Well, and I think that's the thing when you're starting your own business, you need to go out and find clients too.
You
Like
bet.
sometimes it's like, oh, well, I'm just going to start this business and people will come. If you build it, they will come. No, that's not how it works. You got to have a plan on how, first of all, taking stock of your resources, what are you going to do, how are you going to have the time, but then you have to have a plan, a good, solid business plan.
Yep.
What's that plan look like? And not just how much you want to do, but drilling it down to how much you're going to do, where that business is going to come from, where those leads are going to come from, how are you going to find the customers or the clients, and then executing on all of those things. So, we've talked about open houses a lot today just because it just happens to be something we're talking about. But, the consumer sees, oh, they held an open house for 3 hours and they sold a house. No, it doesn't work that way. Like, there's probably about 10 to 12 hours of pre-work that goes in before we host that.
Sure.
And probably another 15 to 30 hours of follow-up and post-work with those people before. And then now we're just getting to the point of writing a contract, and then keeping the contract together and negotiating the deal, and then inspection, and then walkthrough, and like all the little things that happen. So there's a lot of hours, and I'm not complaining. Real estate has been a beautiful, wonderful career for me.
Me too.
I just want people that are thinking about getting into it or starting it, whether it's this business or something else, to know that they have realistic expectations and what's going to be required of them in order to get into this. And you can't do both, be a good mom and wife and raise a family and have this. It's just setting those realistic expectations up front, setting your non-negotiables, give yourself grace when when stuff happens, because God knows I fell on my face a lot. There were times where maybe I should have been there for my kids and I wasn't, and there were clients that, you know, I'm sorry that, you know, I screwed up on. Like, it happens.
It does.
I hope it happens less and less now because I have so much experience behind me. But in the beginning, I probably did mess some shit up.
Me too. I for sure did.
Right?
No doubt.
And
I'm okay with that.
well, that's what I mean.
Like,
I've learned to give myself grace.
I've learned. I think it is all a learning curve. Yeah.
I think
But a good one.
in the beginning we beat ourselves up a lot. And I think as I get older, one of the things I've learned is not to sweat the small stuff as much, which is hard for someone like me who's such a perfectionist.
Well, and too, don't you think as you're going through, and I think it's with any business, you learn to deal with what's being thrown at you a little bit better. Like, I can deal with a lot more. Well, you see, like, Kim, how do you not just blow up?
Mm-hmm.
Because I think,
well, you definitely have more patience than
Yeah,
me when it comes to that, talking to clients. I'm like, why don't they get it?
yeah, like, I feel like I'm at a point where I'm like, it's okay, we'll handle it, we got it,
Yeah.
don't worry about it. And that goes along with the give yourself grace. In getting back to that, my point was, I feel like the more you do it, the more experience you get, the more you are able to tolerate and work through and do.
I would agree with you.
Yeah, there's I see agents now, even our own, like, you know, that, oh my god, it's like, oh wait, no,
Breathe.
yeah, we got this, we can do this, let's walk through this.
Well, I think life has given me more tolerance and patience in that, just because of, like I mentioned, my youngest son's on the autism spectrum, and the things like, I think I learned a lot of patience over the years just from helping raising him, and he's phenomenal now. But I mean, there were times where, like, the school called and they were carting him off in an ambulance, and like you had to, like, just say, sorry clients, I'm missing the appointment, like, I don't know what to tell you, someone else will help you. Well, I think that's another actually good point in terms of when you're starting your business, is how important is the circle or the tribe that you surround yourself with. Let's talk about that. We got a little bit of time left.
I love this one.
Yeah.
It's honestly, and this is no lie, it is absolutely 100% whether it will make or break you. I've been, you know, with a core group of people since I started, you know, and then you fall off and your business kind of goes along with that, and then you come back together and then you fall off. And really, I'm at a point in my career now, it is absolutely 100% who I surround myself.
Well, I mean, they always say that you tend to take on the characteristics or rise to the level of the 5 people that you surround yourself with the most. But I also think that's not just from a financial perspective. I think that's from an integrity perspective. I think it's from a kindness perspective. I think it's from a
trust.
Yeah, that's
trust.
And I know, and I love it took a long time because I used to give everybody the benefit of the doubt. I know you're smiling, right? Like, and I've gotten burned more times than I'd like to admit.
Where's Ubaldo? Where's
or Bart?
Or Bart? I was gonna.
Yeah. I mean, so they're very skeptical, whereas I'm very trusting. And I feel like I've let a lot of people into my circle previously that maybe I shouldn't have trusted, and that, you know, stabbed me in the back. I'm just gonna say it. Yeah, you know, I got burned a few times, more than a few times, by people that I really treated like family. Like, you know, when you're in the circle with us, you're in the circle. Like, you get it all. I mean, you're probably going to hear some things you don't want to hear, like TMI a lot, right? Too much information. But we also, you know, would lay down for each other and do anything for each other. So, like, and so I know that, like, if I have a client and I can't make it somewhere and I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't do this, I could call any one of the people in our group, our surrounded group, and they'll go and help me out. And not because, like, they're going to get paid or I'm going to have to give them half my transaction or whatever. Just, now, if they do a lot of work, I'm going to do what's right and what's fair. And be like, you know what, Kristen, you did all that work with that client. You know, here, I'm going to split it with you, or I'm going to pay you a referral or whatever. But also in a pinch, Like if you're out of town or whatever, like, hey, this person needs to go out. Can you go show them one house? Absolutely. Corey will run and do it, or whoever.
Right.
So I think that circle of people that you surround yourself with, when your computer freaks out and you're like, you called help, right?
Yeah.
Like, a virus attacked me. What did you click on? I didn't click on anything, I swear. No.
Right.
But those people that you surround yourself with, are they people that you want to be in business with? And I think I've learned that the hard way. And you have as well. I mean, you bounced around to a couple different places because, we had the band together, and then the band broke up, and then we had part of the band back together because other people we didn't want back in the band. And so I think those are important things too. So like, just to recap some of the things that we talked about, taking stock of your resources, who do you have for help, non-traditional ways of leveraging or outsourcing, giving yourself grace, setting your non-negotiables up, and knowing who you have in your circle.
For sure.
I think those are all really, really good ones.
They are.
So if you could go back and do it all over again, knowing what you know now, what's one thing that you would make sure to get right or tell your younger self or whatever?
Honestly, the circle is super important to me. Because if you have that core circle, or that, they have a tendency to tell you.
Well, they're not afraid to call you out on your
Right.
bullshit either.
And like, Kim, you need to go home.
Yeah.
Go home. Or you're not doing that right. Or I will help you. Or like, they will tell you. It's a trust thing. Like, who do I trust to that would tell me the truth?
Well, I mean, I had that conversation with somebody in our circle the other day. I'm like, hey, I'm telling you this because I care about you. What's wrong with you? You're not yourself. Something's off. And what are you going to do to get your ass in gear?
Or go home.
And that person, I'm not going to call anybody out by name because they texted me later and was like, thank you for that. I appreciate that. I needed that. Now, if we weren't in that environment together, somebody else might not say anything. And then, 6 months from now, that person's out of the business and they're struggling and their life's falling apart and you wonder why. Like, we need to be, but also I built enough deposits in trust with that person that I'm allowed to have that conversation.
Sure.
Like, you could say, oh, you have a coach and they'll help you do that. But I'm not listening to someone who I don't think or I don't believe cares about what's truly important to me. And having a coach is important and great, and I coached for years, but that coach has to build trust and build deposits of trust with you that you know that they truly care about you in order to be able to say those things to you.
It's a great point, because you can hire 15 coaches and you can say, I'm going to start this coaching business, or I want to be a coach. But if you don't have the validity behind, if you don't have trust behind, if you haven't proven, it means nothing.
Zilch.
It means nothing.
Yep.
I mean, there was a company I was at, and they wanted me to listen to somebody who was only in the business a few years. What? Maybe I should be the coach. But no, I think you have that validity behind it. You have to have proof behind it.
Well, I'm glad that you bring that up, because that's probably one more final thing about when you're starting this business. When I think about what we did to become successful, both of us, and we didn't mention this at all yet today, is we both invested in ourselves in the form of learning, education, and training.
Very much so. Weren't we just talking about that earlier?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
We were just talking about it. I spent a lot of money taking classes to learn. If I didn't know something, I would take a class, I would open a book, I would have a read. Maybe not so much.
And time.
Oh.
I don't know, when your resource of time, your hours are weird or limited, I would watch classes online at night after the kids went to bed. So one of the beautiful things now is we have podcasts and you have online courses, and the company we're with has a whole huge online training library. So you could literally, be with your kids during the day, have a sitter for your showings and your appointments, and then, you sleep when you sleep, but you could go online and learn every single night. And I did that a lot in the beginning too. I'm a consummate finder of information and learning, and that's how I become confident in something. I know I could be successful at something if I'm confident in it, and I become confident in it when I learn about it and know it. And the more you know, the more confident you show up as. So I think training is really important, and I'm going to add a caveat to that. There's all these gurus out there, right? So when you're starting a business, and whether it's anything, even with this podcast, right? So I'm like, well, how am I going to start a podcast? I know Kim and I have stuff we want to share with the world. I know we have good, valuable information where we can make an impact and make a difference with people by hearing from us. But what about the logistics of it all? Like, how do you get the technology set up? Where do you publish it? Do you just take a video and you post it online? Like, what do you do? So I had to learn. I took an online class, but you know, just like anything else now with social media, when you talk about something or you do something, then all of a sudden you get flooded with ads for it, right? So now all these gurus and experts are showing, and I'm like, how do I know that this person's any good from that person and this person from that person? So I think whatever kind of business it is, let's say you're getting into real estate and they tell you hire a coach, hire a coach, hire a coach. Make sure that coach or that person that's training you has actually done it before, because I've been dumped into classes with people and I'm like, this sounds good. And then when I go back and research, I'm like, this person's never sold more than 4 houses a year.
It is just
infuriating.
And you know me, I'll be up at like, what? Wait, what happened? Who? Huh?
You're gonna tell me how to build a listing-based, successful business, and you've only taken more than 3 listings a year? I don't think so.
A year.
Yeah. So I think that, you know, educating and investing in yourself is important. I say trust but verify, right? Like learn and do. When you have successful people that are teaching you, listen and implement what they're teaching you, but also make sure that they've actually done it before themselves. At least for me.
For 100%. I can't listen to somebody and they've sold 3 houses, or they're going to teach me how to get clients when they're not doing that as well, or they've never done it.
It's funny because you talked about your buddy who we love, and he's a very highly successful agent. And I will take things that he's done. If I want to know how to get better at listing, I'm going to listen to his videos and listen to his podcast and watch his videos and everything. But when it comes to work-life balance, I'm not going to take advice from him on work-life balance. I love him, right? Like, in that regard.
Maybe I'll talk to his dad.
Right. But what I'm saying is, like, if you're going to model after someone, or you want your business to look a certain way, or you want it to show up a certain way, verify that they've achieved or done some of the things that you're looking to do. And it might be just till you get to this point, and then you get to that point, and then you find someone else. Like we talked about, people come into your life for a season or for a reason, right? So they're going to come in and out. So you might have a coach or a trainer that gets you to this level, but once you're at that same level, you might be ready for the next person for the next level.
And I think that's super important, because I've done that plenty.
Let's see. We talked about knowing your resources. We talked about
giving yourself grace.
Yeah, forgiveness and grace, so important. Your non-negotiables. Making sure that those are set up. We talked about your circle, and we talked about
I just want to
coaching and mentorship. Go ahead.
I love our circle. I do. I love our circle. It's been, when did I come back? 6-8 months ago, and my business has blew up.
You know what? I think we vibe off of each other really well.
Sure do.
Kristen, you, me. Like the people when you're around good energy, that's contagious and it lifts you up. Even when you're having a bad day. Like there's some days I'm like, ugh. And then I'm around certain people and I'm like, yes. Yeah. This is what I needed. Like,
for sure.
It's good.
It is great.
And more people really coming into it, which I love. Like really great people that have
good people.
And seeing, the other thing, I love seeing some of the people that are coming in, that the agents that are like starting to hit their groove, and watching them succeed.
Oh my gosh.
That just brings me so much joy.
And it really has done well. It'll be good.
I like being that mama hen sometimes. It feeds my soul.
It does.
Like watching them and pouring into them and watching them grow. Like my greatest accomplishment in the next couple of years is going to be when they all just blow us out, you and I, out of the way of the water in terms of success and sales, and still balancing that work-life balance.
And it makes, for me, I look and I'm like, yay, did you see what she did? Or, oh my God, did you see what they did? So for me, it's a circle.
Well, if you like what you're hearing, subscribe, like, and follow us. We're on Spotify, iHeartRadio, on music.
YouTube.
YouTube. Do Epic Shit Podcast. Let's see what we've got for you coming up. So let's see. Next topics that we have, we're going to talk about, in no particular order whatsoever, the art of saying no and protecting your time.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Managing the highs and lows of entrepreneur life. Becoming a leader, lessons learned.
That's a great one.
Building a team, what works and what doesn't.
Ouch.
Real estate tips and tricks for success.
That's a good one.
And investing 101.
Ooh, I love that
Building
one.
wealth while running a business.
Yeah, that's a good one. We all should be doing that.
And I've had some peaks and valleys in that, like where I've built some really amazing things and then lost it all and built it back and lost it all again and build it back again. So that's
That'd
fun.
be good.
So we are so grateful for you for tuning in.
Thank you.
Appreciate you. Subscribe, like, follow us, do epic shit, and we are out of here.